Hi everyone. Today we've decided to go back to the basics and do some bonsai work on an azalea. And this azalea is exactly as I purchased it from the nursery. Haven't even removed the tag from it or anything because I wanted to show you folks what we do from the very beginning here. So let's get started with our little azalea here. The first thing we need to do is take the tag off it. It's better to cut the line holding the tag so as not to injure the tree. And then we have to remove some dead flowers here, and we can just pull those off with our hands. Be careful not to disturb the buds for any future growth. And we've got a few yellow leaves here, which to me indicates that the soil may be a little bit waterlogged. Now let's see if we can get it out of the pot. Now I had prepared a mallet and everything, but this may just slide right out. Let's take this real easy. And there it goes. Now it's out of the pot. And we can clean the soil off. And it's got a real nice, lot of fine roots in the root ball here. But let's take this over to the garden cart and break up the soil a little bit and see what we have. Okay, what I'm going to do here is just go into the root ball with the cultivator and kind of loosen the soil up a bit. And as I suspected, the root ball is a bit waterlogged and this soil is draining really poorly. But we are going to fix that when we put this in a bonsai pot. Now, generally if you start with 1 or 5 gallon nursery stock, you're going to have to remove roughly the bottom half of the root mass in order to get it to fit in the bonsai pot, simply because nursery pots are much deeper. Now I'm trying here to kind of work between the roots so as not to injure them. And I think at some point I'm going to go into this with a high pressure hose in order to get a better idea what I have to work with here. We've washed all the soil off the roots of our azalea, and fortunately the roots are in good shape, but the old soil was much too loamy and too much organic matter, and definitely had some drainage issues. Now, the next step is to remove any girdling roots that circle the base of the trunk, like this one here, and we're just going to cut that right out of there like that with the shears. And now we want to look at our possible planted angles. We've got 2 possible trunk angles. We could put it upright like this, which wouldn't be very interesting. We can tilt it a little bit like this and use this as the main trunk line. Or if we want to do something dramatic, we can tilt it over like this and use this line here as the main trunk line. And I actually like that choice best of all. So I'm going to do a little bit of pruning here. Take a look at it from my side. Now, if you want to thicken the base of the trunk, the Japanese will typically leave branches like this on the tree as what they call sacrifice branches, just to fatten up the base of the trunk and develop good taper. But we want to create something here it's going into a bonsai pot. Now we want it to look like a bonsai fairly quickly, so we're going to take these off. And now we're going to take another look at this S-curving trunk line and take off a few more little branches here. Now this one with the flower on it I'm going to leave for now because it's not really hurting anything. And these strong green ones here are suckers. Azaleas tend to throw a lot of growth off the base, and it's hard to get them to send growth to the top of the tree. So during the time that you have it, you're going to be pruning off a lot of these so that they don't take energy from the top of the tree. And then this one will take off. And now we've got our upper trunk line fairly well established, so let's prune back. Now when you prune an azalea, you want to go just past the leaf internode because the new growth is going to come out of the gap between the leaf and the stem. So we'll cut it right there, and then we'll cut that one right there, and then this one we'll cut right there like that. Then we'll take another look at this. And this looks like it's going to be the front of this tree, so it doesn't really need this branch either. And you're not going to get something that looks like a finished bonsai here when you do this. You're going to get a nice little pre-bonsai that's going to give you some nice looking flowers and look quite showy in the pot that we've selected. We'll talk about the pot in just a minute. And I'm going to clean up the pruning scars just a little bit more. You have to be careful with the bark on azaleas too. It's kind of sensitive, and for that reason we don't like to wire them. The Japanese, when they wire an azalea, they wrap the wire in tissue paper to protect the tree's bark. And now we're going to look at the roots again and just do a little bit of pruning here to get it to fit into the pot at its new planted angle. Now I'm looking at these roots and seeing how much is at the end of them before I cut them off. Because if you take one that's too large, you can seriously impair the tree's ability to absorb moisture. Now we have a nice large pot here, so this is going to fit into it nicely and easily. And it functions well as a growing pot so that the tree can build structure. And at the same time will give you something very pretty to sit on your patio and hopefully have your guests admire. I chose this cream colored pot because it harmonizes well with the color of the azalea's flowers. And this particular azalea is called a red bird. That's the variety. And the flowers aren't a true red, but a very attractive pinkish red. Now, some folks might want to wire the tree into the pot, but we're using a fairly heavy soil mixture here, and I think the aggregate in the soil is going to hold the tree in position just fine. So wiring it is a matter to me of personal preference, and I just think it's kind of unnecessary here because we're using a deep pot and a fairly heavy soil. So I'm just going to backfill around the tree here. Now, for those who are going to ask about how to make the soil and what mixture I use, this is my standard mixture. It's equal parts decomposed granite, builder's sand, pumice, and organic matter. And I think right now the organic matter is a potting soil that we're using. You can get it in your typical big box home store. And any good brand of potting soil will do. Just stay away from the ones that have the water holding polymers, because those will expand and move the tree around in the pot. And they're also not necessary if you use this mixture. This mixture has both good drainage and good water retention ability. Alright, that completes the filling in of the soil. Now let's take it over to the hose and water it a little bit. So we'll just come right over here. And we use a nozzle set on shower. Water from above. And we run it until the water starts draining out of the bottom of the pot. That way we know the pot is full. Now you'll remember the old soil in the nursery pot. There it goes. You can see the fine brown, the fine particles washing out with the water, which is exactly what we wanted to do. The old nursery pot, the soil was waterlogged, And this soil is draining just beautifully. So we'll finish the tree by adding a rock, which will help distract the eye from the fact that the trunk on it is still thin. And then we'll add some moss, and this will help the tree look as though it's been in the pot for a very long time. Now we'll just fill in a little soil around the moss and the rock. And there's just a little here. You don't need a lot. And then we'll water it a little more with the nozzle set to mist. And that'll help the moss stay established. Now, I have a separate video on the moss, and this moss is from my private supply, which I keep in another part of the yard. So we'll just mist it and get the moss nice and established here. And this is our finished planting. Now we've got flower buds ready to go here on all of these branches, so if we've done things right, and if we add a little fertilizer for flowering plants, and I happen to have some right here, so I'm just going to reach over, get it, and sprinkle just a little bit. Now I'm going to wash my hands right after I do this, but if you don't want to touch the stuff, you can wear gloves or use an old tablespoon. So we've got our fertilizer there, and this tree should give us a profusion of blooms over the next several months and put quite a color show on the patio. Thank you for watching, folks.